Hello and welcome back to Wine Reform. So I recently got to interview the culinary mastermind behind my favorite dessert at Uva Wine Bar. Unfortunately, I lost the footage of the dessert. So I have to go back and film it again. Darn. Anywho, I'm gonna do that today. But I wanted to let you guys know that I am going to start from this video and from now on typing out all the subtitles so that they are word for word instead of auto-generated. That should make it a little bit easier in case, you can't really hear what's going on. Turn on the subtitles and now you know. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and get to the interview. Hi, welcome back to Wine Reform, and today we're joined by Allan at Uva Wine Bar. Allan is the mastermind behind the most amazing dessert I've ever tried, wine ice cream. So, Allan, why don't you tell us a little bit about, how you just came to wine in general?
I've always enjoyed wine, but I sort of got my start working with it at an Italian restaurant with this wonderful northern Italian woman, Brunella. But she just had this great passion for Italian wine, and I learned so much from her. I just fell in love with wine and the wine culture from there. Moved here and knew I wanted to work with wine, and found myself here at Uva, which of course we serve wine from all over the world, not just Italy. So I really just sort of broadened my horizons from there. Like we were talking about earlier, I started in pastry school. Started in pastry school, but made my way to front of the house. But always had a passion for pastry and for dessert, and specifically mixing liquor and dessert. Even in pastry school, when I was 18, and according to my instructors, probably shouldn't even have been dealing with this kind of stuff, but was, and just loved it, and sort of got my start here at Uva.
You mentioned pastry school. What were some of the first desserts that you started mixing alcohol with that realized really helpful flavor?
Really the one that stands out is the one that I had done for my final, which was actually a raspberry champagne sorbet. So that was my first ever delve into wine sorbet. And this is a very classic flavor pairing, raspberry and champagne. And it was just a huge hit. But another one that I think that stands out is during our healthy baking portion, we were working with avocado as an ingredient. And it's so wild now because I see this being a trend in bars, but I actually had made these avocado margarita popsicles with tequila and triple sec. And they were a huge hit. The whole class loved them. They were so delicious. And now I see these being a trend at new bars and stuff. And it's just kind of cool to see. And I was kind of ahead of the game at one point. So
okay, you made this raspberry champagne sorbet very early on in your culinary career. Did that kind of stick with you? And then you finally got a chance to do it? And what was the journey for that?
Right out of pastry school, I did end up getting a job with a really awesome new restaurant on the east side of Texas. It didn't go so well. Let's just say I was young and I wasn't ready. Ended up losing that job, but I decided to try my hand in front of the house. I was living with Hooters girls at the time. Saw what they were doing at the front and made my way there. I kind of put the pastry on the back burner for a minute. I really learned the ins and outs of restaurants, front and back, but mostly through the front. But always in the back of my mind, I had this, I want this wine sort of dessert, alcohol dessert concept, and I just knew that either I was going to work towards having my own place, or one day I'd find the right place that I'd be able to introduce it. And finally, I found myself at Uva, approached the owners, and they told me to make us some samples, and I did, and worked it out, had to tweak some things. It had been a while to perfect some things. Sorbet is much easier than ice cream. obviously you just replace water with alcohol. So there's not really an issue there. There's no creaminess that you need. Ice cream is, you don't put water in it, it's all heavy cream and milk. So when you add the wine, you're adding water that's not normally in ice cream mix. So you have to find that line between getting the flavor of the wine but not making the texture of your ice cream off. So I had to play around with that for a bit, but nailed it, got it down, and we've been rocking and rolling ever since. And oh gosh, I don't know, it's probably been about 6 months now that we've been selling it here. Actually, probably longer, maybe 9.
The trial and error process, were you going back and forth a lot? Like, how did you nail it? Was it an experiment? Was it science?
Yeah, for sure. I think anytime you talk about baking, you're talking about science. That's I can say. It is. It's truly a science, even more so than the culinary side. Things have to be exact, like we were talking about, not adding too much water so that you don't lose the creaminess and you don't get too nice crystals formed. It is science at the end of the day. I might be a little reckless. Maybe it has to do with my personality. I definitely didn't start writing things down until about halfway through, and I realized, hey, some of these flavors are really great. I should probably write this down and keep it solidified. But I'm still growing and learning and still perfecting myself. So, but definitely science and recipe and writing it down, it plays a part.
I respect that. Consistency. Have you noticed certain wines that are a little more than others? Which wines lend themselves well to sorbet or ice cream?
Yeah, I think the type of wine really doesn't change a ton.
Okay.
Most wines are generally fairly similar in water content from what I've seen. Maybe the biggest differentiation between them would be the alcohol percentage. Because I would say the average American wine, red wine, is probably 12 to 14%. Sometimes old world styles are a little bit lower, maybe 11 to 13%. And then you can get into some sweeter wines, which are definitely even lower alcohol percentage, 8%. And this alcohol content plays a role in the ice cream and creaminess. The higher the alcohol content, the slower your mixture is going to freeze. Because alcohol, obviously, as we know, stops the freezing process. If you have a really high alcohol, like vodka or one of your traditional foolproof alcohols, it's not going to freeze. That's why you can put your vodka in the freezer and it's not going to explode like your beer or whatever, so that actually helps in the ice cream as well. I almost always add a shot of liquor to my ice cream, just because it slows the freezing process and then it's too creamy on ice cream.
So I imagine that makes those crystals a little smaller.
Exactly. Yeah.
Didn't pick it up before.
It's especially great in sorbet and helping you get a really nice smooth texture on your sorbet.
When you are making a batch, say for example, you're opening up at night, how long does it take you to make a batch of a sorbet and an ice cream?
So the turning process itself takes 30 to 40 minutes. However, with sorbet, you don't really have to let it sit. You can pretty much blend your fruit, puree your fruit, your sugar, your water, strain it, let it cool so it's not piping hot. Go ahead and turn it. I can bust out sorbet in probably about an hour.
Wow.
Ice cream takes a little bit longer, probably about 30 minutes to make the base. I always use an egg-based base, so I have to temper my eggs with my milk, cook it like a custard, which gives it a little bit of thickness and creaminess, but doesn't take it to a full custard dough. And then I have to let that base cool to room temperature and then actually sit in the fridge overnight for at least 4 hours. It is, yeah. And it's it can be rushed. But to get that full melding of flavors, especially with the complexity of the underlying wine, it's really great to let it sit and sort of all meld together.
How do you figure out when you like it? It's like, what combo is it?
Drinking the wine. Really truly opening my palate and really trying to work hard on studying the undertones in the wine. And really using those and then my culinary background to come up with flavors that are going to complement each other well. My favorite example is I use a really cherry Malbec to make a really, really awesome peanut butter and jelly ice cream. And it's kind of funny because I don't use any unnatural dyes or anything, so I use our house-made jelly that we have here, natural peanut butter, and the wine. And actually, you mix them all together, and it makes this really like muddled, generic gray color. But it's just this really delicious, just like you're eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but in a cool, cold ice cream form.
What kind of wine do you really want to get your hands on for a batch of ice cream?
Truth be told, when I look at wines that I'm using for my ice cream, I'm not looking for anything crazy exotic or crazy expensive. Really, I'm looking for anything in the $8 to the $12 bottle price range, which is great. All of our wines have a glass here pretty much fall into that category. They're all really fantastic wines, but still affordable. Because I don't want to use the really good stuff for my ice cream. I do want to savor and drink that. But I did come up with a wine. I was at Trader Joe's in Denver the other night, and they're fortunate enough to have the liquor store attached. We're getting one soon, hopefully by the end of the year. But I was looking through and I noticed they had a $15 bottle of Barolo, which is very affordable. Barolo is a pretty expensive Italian wine normally. So I think that would be a fun one to drink and experiment with, for sure.
I do really appreciate that you mentioned price range, because that's definitely something that I personally am more into.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Having an affordable bottle and like it's just as good.
Yeah, I think wine doesn't have to be pretentious.
Have you considered making something on it?
I have. We have some really, really great natural wines here. Some really cool, unique pet mats, which are going to be unfiltered, 100% natural wines. They're these sort of new age, really cool style of wine that people are experimenting with. We have this really awesome one called Astro Bunny. It's from Australia. Four different Italian varietals, little known kind of rare Italian varietals. And it is this just really awesome sort of sour, crisp, rosé white kind of wine. And it smells really fruity on the nose. You think it's going to be sweet by the look and the smell, but it's not. You can see it's totally unfiltered.
I know I'm backtracking a lot. When you talked earlier about how if you're going to serve someone with a wine and then serve your ice cream with it, what are some ice creams you made as wine pairings and fruitiness?
So, obviously always I recommend the wine that is in the ice cream or the sorbet to pair with it, but definitely you're not limited to that. Chocolate goes really great with big bold reds, and then more fruit forward, of course, my sweet that's going to have that sort of savory, nutty undertone. Goes really great with the red wines.
Wine ice cream design. Do you have any sort of dessert visions in the future you want to share or look up?
I don't have anything big that I've been working on yet, but I do have every intention of one day having my own dessert wine bar, and certainly I will expand at that point outside of just ice cream and sorbet. But I'm still young. I'm still just sort of getting my start here, so these are definitely things down the future, but things I hope to do for sure.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate getting to talk to you about this. I really love the way you're thinking about wines and you're combining it with what you were saying. You're kind of envisioning this future, and I think it's beautiful.
Thank you. It was awesome to be here. I mean, this is the first chance I've gotten to sort of talk to an audience about my passion project. So yeah, it was wonderful.
And I love to share it. So if anyone happens to be in Colorado Springs, definitely come by Uva Wine Bar, ask for Allan, and definitely try this wine ice cream because it's amazing. I'm not even mad. Like, yeah, I lost the original footage of that dessert, but I just had to go back and, order more, eat more, and film more, so not really a loss, I guess. Anywho, thank you, Allan, and Uva Wine Bar for letting me talk to you guys about your amazing wine ice cream. I release videos every other Friday. That is twice a month on Fridays. So be sure to hit subscribe and hit that bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified when I do release a video. If you enjoyed this podcasty style visual interview, then be sure to give me a thumbs up. I am definitely getting in touch with more wine professionals, and I am very excited to get to share some of their perspectives with you guys because the world of wine is wonderful and wide, and I would love to share all that there is to be had. I think that's about it. Oh! One last thing. What is the last food that you had that was cooked or just made with wine? I'm cheating because I just had wine ice cream, but for you guys, there's a lot of different foods that you can enjoy that have wine cooked into them, so what was the last thing you ate that had that? And without further ado, I will see you guys again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.